So, Matt, we get together because I get to know what kudos means and what it is and what it stands for in the world.
Mm-hmm. No.
Are you going to share that with us on this live stream?
There is a lot to share. I'm going to share some of that with you on this live stream potentially.
God,
Mm,
awesome.
yeah.
Right. So I'm Carol Edmondson, and I am the event host for Kashulia UK, which is a not-for-profit community organisation, very much with the heart of community behind what it does and what it represents. It's a not-for-profit registered community organisation to empower and uplift women but also inviting men to contribute. Hence why you're here, Matt. Sorry. The founder is Ritu Sharma, who has dedicated her life to bringing women of this world to find their own power and true worth. The main objectives of the organization is to empower, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women, to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional, and financial growth. That was the ethos behind Ritu Sharma setting up Kushulia UK. Projects include support for victims of domestic abuse, empowering communities, personal and professional development, health and well-being. And I host 2 in-person events on 2 Mondays in the month, and on the Friday, 2 Fridays in the month, hosted by another volunteer. We have a fortnightly dance wellness program. So as you can see, we try to get people out of their homes to bond and gel together. So thank you. So now, before I introduce you to our last speaker for the evening, who is no other than Mr. Miracle, Matt Allen. So, who is Matt Allen? Well, some call him LinkedIn King, some call him Miracle Maker, others Matt the Miracle. Whatever you call him, doesn't matter. It is the love that he has for all people that really defines him and the huge changes he is bringing in the world. The best part is that Matt has created an umbrella of solutions that arise from everyone's uniqueness and deliver as people are unified. This is the reason why people are the solution, and we are all miracles in Matt's eyes. Matt's solutions include huge innovations in ending homelessness, providing personal data control, personal and systemic economic growth and development, peace, healthier food, environmental and ecological sustainability, learning and development platform, global people-centered conference, healthier human research, increased resources for good causes. Phew. Well, Matt, the pleasure is all mine.
Who's this guy? I want to meet him.
Oh, me too. I am so looking forward for what you are going to share.
Thank you. You put yourself on mute when you finished talking, whatever that was. And incidentally, so I don't know whether you were drawing a heart or a world. Both are very applicable. Carol, what a wonderful experience it has been so far. I'm sorry that it's going to go downhill from here, but somebody's got to do that to it, isn't it? So my name is Matt Allen, and I am founder of Kudos Miracles, Kudos International, Democry. I am here to share some of our work, some of the reasons for that work, and some of the miracles that are members of my team, some of them that are here this evening, some of our wonderful supporters and cheerleaders, May. And just share with the world some stories of well, at least some words of hope and belief in change and real change that is possible through the miracles that is all people and the solutions that we can achieve together. So, like I say, my name is Matt Allen. I'll basically, first of all, explain what I explained to everybody, which is three things. At this point, Carol's seen this before, so my apologies, Carol. I'm not very clever, so I have to like literally. There's three things, so I have to count them as I go. But I'm also a very polite Englishman, so I don't like showing my fingers, so I hide them behind my other hand so that then I can see them. So, number one is a little bit about me, and then number two is a little bit about Kudos. Bye, Kevin. I will see you soon. Stay in touch, mate. Much love. Number two is a bit about Kudos and the original envisagement of the idea. And then number three is a little bit about the bigger things, as if number two was not big enough. Anyway, the least important thing and the one that will get us very quickly over onto the stage number two is me. I'm reasonably old and I've had what is called brittle type 1 diabetes for 36 years, although they didn't really acknowledge that that condition existed until just a few years ago. And that basically is like, well, it is type 1 diabetes, but it's much harder to control. In fact, it is impossible to control and causes no ends of problems and a very discomforting life on a day-to-day basis. Even now, with a state-of-the-art 7,000-pound pump that for most people sees them having a blood sugar that's very much like a slightly curvy line. My blood sugar is a lot more like the Himalayas or a cardiogram, if you've seen one of those. So that causes some complications, things like I am partially sighted. I have difficulties with my bones. I have pains that move around them, and the doctors don't really know what that is. At one point, I was addicted to morphine and fentanyl due to that pain because they were trying everything and anything that they could to try and solve that problem, but that wasn't the answer. I also have something called gastroparesis, gastro meaning stomach, paresis meaning paralyzed or dead, because my stomach doesn't do what most people's stomachs does. It just doesn't move, and therefore gravity moves my food through my system, realistically, not my actual system. Whereas that's different for most other people, it's their system that moves the food through. So I think that's about all that I should share about me. Because I need to waffle on about stuff. Most important thing is part number two. And at this point, I really have to be polite, so I'm gonna cover those two fingers up because it's very. I promised Carol that I wouldn't swear. I'm trying very hard, so no two fingers. So, Kudos, what is that? Well, let's talk about the world that we live in. We're on Zoom, and Zoom has some terms and conditions that relate to our data that we provide into it. Even me, whilst I'm speaking now, and the wonderful speakers that we had just before, all of that data through their terms and conditions is their data, not ours. It's not our words, it's their words. They can use that however they see fit. And maybe Facebook, where this is being live streamed to, perhaps they have their own terms and conditions and their regulations about what they believe that data is as well. And they believe very much that that is their data to do with whatever they want. And what Zoom and Facebook and many of the other big tech platforms do with that data is that they use it to make a lot of money and to control us and manipulate us in many different ways. Now, the money that they make out of that, you would think would be useful to solve some of the world's problems, perhaps, thereby actually making people want to use the platforms that they hold. Because imagine if they solved homelessness or created world peace, people would actually think, you know what, that thing that I kind of use because I have to, I actually want to use that, because if that's a solution that they provide, I'd like to know that they're going to provide more solutions, so I'm going to use their products and services. Except I don't think that. They just care about the money and the control and manipulation. And so they carry on and think that they have the answer to the problems in our world, which is us. We're the problem in their world. They don't want us around. Well, I'm slightly different. So my platform, when it begins, will give people back the ownership and control of their data. And it will do that through technology and through some very aligned thought processes that lead us to people being the solution to all of our problems. That is a little bit cryptic because I can't tell you all of the intricacies of how I do that because that's my IP and I don't want to share that on this particular platform. So we give people back control of their data, and then people can use that data to make themselves a little bit richer. I don't mean necessarily to the extent of buying a brand new BMW or Mercedes for everybody. I do mean by giving something back, not just control, but some monetary value, which would help our economies, incidentally. Most of us live in economies that are struggling a little bit because we don't have enough money to spend on even sometimes the essential things like somewhere to live or power to turn on in those homes or food to feed the children that we have inside of those homes if we're privileged enough to have children there. So some of that money will help with that. But who are they giving that data to? Where is that data money coming from? So that's the other side of the platform. That is the advertisers who currently pay money to Google, Facebook, Zoom, whoever it might be, the big tech platforms. They pay them for data about us. And they get that data and then they advertise to us their products and services that they want to sell. They have no guarantee that that data is actually what we want to buy, or that we haven't just actually bought that. And we wish that we wouldn't see adverts for the very same thing for a very, very long time. But we seem to get that situation quite often. So Kudos advertising platform gives them a place to connect to people who are in control of their data so that then once they have bought a product or service and they don't want to buy that product and service again, the advertiser is not going to waste their time trying to convince them to buy something that they don't want, need, or, to quote a good friend of mine, desire. So that's two sides of that. What about the profit? What about the money that these big tech companies are making? What change can we make there? Because it all sounds very beneficial to everybody so far, but surely there's something better that we can do, some change in the world that we can realize and make the world a better place for everybody. The things that I do are called social benefit networks because the main thing in the middle is benefit, and it's all about people. So what we do with the profit is that a large proportion of that is given to good causes. And most people who are familiar with this talk know about me in parks. Let's think about some good causes in parks. What do we have in parks? We have quite often potentially some old people who've gone for some vitamin D and some sunlight and some enjoyable fresh air. And we have potentially some young mothers, let's say, who are pushing their prams around and they want to take a seat on a bench. Except in the parks near me, those benches are generally not very well taken care of. They're covered in graffiti or falling apart. And they're not the sorts of places that young mums should be forced to sit on, and certainly not the sort of places that old people like to sit and enjoy their time out reading their newspaper or whatever they get up to these days. So we could fix the park benches, couldn't we? Except that doesn't solve the problem, because one of the further problems is that old people have needs sometimes for the toilet, and young mums with babies, they have need to change their babies. Maybe we need to change some of the old people too, but that's another story. And I said to Carol that I would try and keep it clean, so we'll keep off of that subject. So let's fix the toilets, because the toilets are in usually much worse repair than the benches themselves. That's if they're open or even exist. And usually they're filled with graffiti or some other paraphernalia from something. So let's fix the toilets. That's surely got to fix the problem. We can have old people and young people running around in the park doing some good. Except that doesn't really solve the problem. And what the problem really is, and I'm not holding this group of people responsible, is generally speaking some youngsters who have nothing better to do other than to write graffiti on things, use drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be these days, and generally do something with their time because they don't have anything productive to do. And why should they care about the young mums or the old people? Because those people appear not to care about them. They pay money to the government in tax, and the government doesn't give any care about the youngsters. So why should they care about the rules and the regulations and the responsibility of society when society doesn't care about them? No, actually, we do care. It's just that there is no money available. All of the money from these big tech companies that leaves most of our countries and they don't pay tax on, that money goes to send them in spaceships to closer to the moon to see whether it's made out of cheese or not, doesn't it? No, I'm not interested in cheese. I'm not interested in money. What I'm interested in is people. And so we will fix that issue with that good cause money, amongst others. We'll give that money to make children part of society again, make young people feel as though they're getting out what they put in and they want to put in more so that then they get more out. That's how that works, is we all want something and we need to be motivated to be able to get that thing and share that thing with others. The good thing is that what we generally want is love, to give it and to receive it and to care about other people. That's the beauty of being human. So that kind of covers a little bit of what I aim to do with the prophet. But I also recall back to stage number one, me and my difficulties with my health, and the fact that really there is no getting better, essentially, from some of the difficulties that I have, because money doesn't exist for researching things that are very unique to me. But also, most of the money that goes to medical research is wasted upon things, in my humble opinion, things that are like fentanyl and morphine that I was addicted to, or antidepressants that keep people in their beds and unable to live the miracle lives that they should be able to live because they're kept imprisoned in this system that exists from the very food that we eat through to the houses that some people are now having to live without. So one of the other things that we do with the money from the profit is to invest that into medical research, the sort of medical research that I'm not capable of doing because I'm not a medical researcher. And yet I can research those things and I can teach people how to get over their diabetes or defeat obesity and many other things that I help to educate people about. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professor, I'm not a clever guy at all. I'm just a guy with a couple of ideas. And we really need ideas. We need solutions. We need to realize that people are the solution to all of the very big problems in our world today. The resource that we have, the real energy that we hold, is inside of us. And taking belief in those things and making action upon them is how we result in changing the world. I think most people would agree. I haven't asked everybody, but most people would agree that we need to change our world very differently to what it exists as at the moment. People struggle with so many problems, and nobody seems to have a solution. I have a solution. I have many. I have all the miracles in the world, and we are all the solution. Now, this might sound like very pie in the sky, fluffy cloud thinking. Oh, isn't it nice? Yeah, it'd be wonderful to live in a much healthier and better and more educated and peaceful world where people actually matter, because currently we don't feel that we do. Well, that's not pie in the sky. That's not some imaginary thing. That is something that exists and something that is coming to our world, because we basically are in a position currently, and certainly for the next year or so, to make a decision whether we will make a change for the good or we will make a change to continue as we are, and that the world is going to not exist in the way that it does now. The powers that be, whether they be influential from the point of these big tech platforms through to the people who govern us in ways that don't seem to actually be for our benefit, but rather for their own and their friends, these people are trying to take more control on a day-to-day basis. And really, our option is only to believe in a change and to make that change happen. Except there is two options there also. One is that we make a positive change through real platforms that enable people to live more peacefully and in a much better, healthier and happier environment with some actual money in their economies that actually functions to help them to realize solutions that solve their problems. Or we can pick up our pitchforks and our guns, depending on which country you live in, and try and overthrow those powers that way. And they have steps in place to look after the people who decide that's the option. I'm in the fortunate position of being able to tell you about three things. I don't just talk about a particular platform. I don't just talk about me. So let's move to sorry, showing the fingers again. Sorry, Cal. Number 3. I look as though I'm looking up at the top of the screen, but that's what, if you're watching on Facebook, in Zoom, there's people up above in a strip where we can see them up above, and I can see Carol smile. I hope you can see her smiling as well, because it's beautiful. So, number 3, let's just explain this way. Now, for those people watching, if you're listening, my apologies. I'll try and depict this as we go. Behind me at the bottom of my screen is some what I call crisis-mus trees. Not Christmas trees, crisis-mus. Because these Christmas trees behind me are on fire. Because Christmas has not been Christmas for almost all of us for the last few years, maybe for a long time, actually, for quite a lot of us, but it's becoming more difficult as the years go by. And so it's become crisis-mus, because Christmas used to have Christmas tree presents at the bottom of the Christmas tree where people could party and have a great time. Except we're more familiar now with the fact that those Christmas tree presents seem to be going upwards to the top of the crisis-mus tree, and those people are having parties, maybe even during things like lockdown when they shouldn't have, for those people who are watching in the UK. Now, I'm not talking about Christmas tree presents. I'm talking about resource, revenue, power, control, those sorts of things. They're taken from us and put at the top of the crisis-mus tree. I don't know about you, but I can only sleep in one bed. I don't need a 21-bedroom house. I don't need 12 of them. My eyesight is very bad because of the conditions that I have. I mentioned that I'm partially sighted. I don't need any cars. I don't need a car. I just need to be able to walk again properly, without a stick, without a wheelchair, without having to be driven places, because I find it very difficult in this very cold country to get around without a lot of pain happening in my legs. I would like to think that we can actually research things that will make a change to people so that then they don't have to get addicted to drugs that are really more about making money out of them than actually helping them get better. So, Kudos is one platform, but Kudos represents many platforms, some of them to solve homelessness, and not just homelessness, but to be able to change from getting on the property ladder, which seems to have disappeared from the reach of most people, to a property escalator that starts with homelessness people without homes, being educated and being put into some housing that will enable them to be able to move forwards with their lives to a point where potentially they may have jobs to be able to actually create some housing for themselves and other people that will mean jobs and prosperity and money and homes that are affordable and made out of more sustainable materials, because that is an important factor of our existence, is our world that we live in. It is time that we changed many things. It is time that we thought differently and that we actually think of what we're going to do in the future and whether that actually exists for all of us in the way that we hoped that it would when we were children. You remember those days when we were all so very happy without all of these problems? We're still those people. We still have the power. We are still the answer to the problems. We are now the solution to those problems. And the solutions are very miracles of our uniqueness and our unity that we can enjoy together. So I've covered 3 things: me, Kudos, and the bigger things. I hope that that gives some people some hope. And I hope, just like Carol, that I can still see smiling. It puts a smile on at least a few people's faces to think that just some guy in the northeast of England is able to think of these things so that then people can live their miracles. Like me, once I wasn't able to get out of bed. One of the miracles that happened in my life was that I was able to get out of my bed, to get to the door, next day to be able to open the door, and then to be able to get to the bathroom, to go to the bathroom in the bathroom. And that's a difficult situation to be in. And by no means the most difficult for anybody. But we all have our crosses to bear. We all have our difficulties to experience. It's not a competition to see who has the worst thing. It's a competition to see who can share the most. It's a competition to see who can love the most, who can help other people to realize that we are all miracles, and that by working together, we can make real difference in our world that really changes it, not just for a couple of years, but for all time now. We don't need to look backwards. We just need to look forwards. Carol, thank you very much for having me on.
Matt, Mr. Miracle. Thank you. Oh, let me just. Okay. Yes, Matt, thank you. Way too short. Way too short. There is so much I know that's in you, and so many plans that you have. And yeah, this is just the beginning. Just the beginning, literally.
Okay, maybe I should shut up if that's what's going to happen.